So overall, this year, our sense from interviewing chief executives and from sitting with boards and undertaking strategy sessions is that some of the fog of digital has lifted. Some of the uncertainty about what will happen when the economy rebounds and am I just going to wait it out has lifted, and actually chief executives are being much more directional with their organizations about what does the digital age mean for my organization and how am I going to sustain competitive advantage in it. We phrase that at the end of the digital beginning. There's a lot more still to come, but the digital fog has lifted and now chief executives are taking control. So in order to talk about some of the themes and to pick the themes up that I've just outlined there, it's my pleasure to introduce the first of our chief executives. I'm going to introduce Punit Goenka from Zee Entertainment, who's going to come and join me, and we will sit and discuss some of those issues. Thank you. Hey, Punit. Welcome.
Hello, Phil.
So, okay. So Punit's going to walk us through a little bit about what Zee Entertainment is and does for those of you who don't know. But as a broad overview, Zee is an entertainment, a media and a television group from India. It has operations in 169 different countries, 670 million viewers, and it drives a variety of innovative formats and entertainment through to that community. Punit is Managing Director and CEO, has been CEO since 2008, and is widely credited as a catalyst for change. So it's been a fast growth organization. It's had some bumps along the way. It's had some strategies that it's wanted to implement, and Punit is now driving the next phase. So I guess with that as background, I wonder if we can actually just go to a little bit of the history and give people a flavor for what Zee is, what it does, what its corporate philosophy is, and what you're therefore using as the foundation to drive to the next level.
Absolutely, Phil. We started out back in 1992 with just 2 hours of programming that was being scheduled at that point in time. Today we span across 34 channels in India, 29 on the global basis, and as you rightly said, 169 countries, 670 million viewers. Our journey outside India started in 1995. So the international business is now 18 years old. But truly the international business only has started 3 years back. And just if I explain a little bit to you, for the first 15 years, our focus was largely on the Indian diaspora. So even though we were operating in the international markets, but the audiences we were capturing were only Indians. It's only 3 years back where we have expanded our market now to go beyond Indians. And to start with, we have picked up Middle East, Russia, and Malaysia as the 3 key markets, where we're going to repurpose, reformat our content to suit the local audiences. And our goal is by 2020 that we want to reach over 1 billion viewers, therefore making Zee as one of the top 10 broadcasters in the world.
So I talked a little bit about the fast growth areas, those 3 areas that you've highlighted there. Why those 3?
Firstly, I think all these markets have a lot of connect with Indian content, especially on the Bollywood side. And therefore, we believe that these are the 3 low-hanging fruits, if you may want to call it that, and that's where we are going to enter first.
So the international expansion is based off the back of a very, very solid domestic Indian operation, which, as you say, has reached out to the Indian diaspora over many, many years and now is moving to the next level. But can we talk a little bit about India, and then we'll broaden the conversation again. So India is going through a phenomenally quick transition to digital at this stage. When I was down a couple of weeks ago, the phase 1 of the rollout has happened, which is Mumbai, Delhi, and Calcutta. Phase 2, which is largely every urban population over 1 million people, is pretty much done. That really fast growth rollout of digital gives great opportunities for you, but presumably also brings new challenges to be managed. Can we talk a little bit about the benefits of digitization in India to Zee at this point?
Yeah, sure. I mean, if you look at the traditional analog market that India has been, it is largely, 70% piracy or under declaration, if you want to call that. So therefore, a broadcaster like Zee has not been getting its true share from the value chain. So that's one opportunity for a company like us or for the industry as a whole. The second big opportunity is that India is still the cheapest content market in the world. The ARPU levels, the consumers pay on average $3 a month for a suite of almost 200 channels on average that they get. I believe that this number will go up to anywhere between $10 to $12, depending on which day you wake up and how the dollar is performing. But so the opportunity is twofold. You've got expansion in the actual declaration of subscriber base and the ARPUs itself going up. So Zee is bound to gain on both those accounts, and so is the industry.
You described to me a few days ago that India was at a tipping point. What do you mean by India's at a tipping point?
Many things. I mean, digitization is one big opportunity that one is looking at today. The second big opportunity is also on the advertising market. Today, if you look at India is still just 0.34% of our GD spend goes to advertising, whereas the global averages are upwards of 0.8%. If you look at the growth in advertising in India, it has been roughly about 9% over the last 5 years. And television has been growing at about 15 to 16%. So I believe the opportunity, even in advertising, is going to be big. Now, whether it's captured through the traditional broadcast mode or through the new mediums, as you talked about in your presentation, because digital, in our language, is just a medium to deliver content at the end of the day to the consumer. As content creators, we'll find the consumer at the end of any screen and monetize that through advertising as well as through subscription. Another development that I must talk about is the new measurement system in India that is being set up. We have a joint industry body between the advertisers, the advertising agencies, and the broadcasters who are setting up a new measurement system. Currently, India's sample size for measurement is less than 10,000 homes. And this body, which is called Broadcast Audience Research Council, is planning to set up over the 3 phases within the next 5 years, up to 100,000 sample homes. This, again, as you talked about, Phil, in your presentation, about giving granularity of reach of consumer, will give far more focused data to the advertiser to find the right consumer at the end of the day. So these are some of the key things that we are going through currently.
Now, in terms of subscribers in India, the balance for Zee between subscription and advertising then in the domestic market?
So the domestic market is roughly 65-35 in favor of advertising, as we believe today. I think on a steady state basis, this would be half and half, but that would be between 3 to 5 years is what I would look at.
Right. Now, I know that I talked about growth not just being revenue growth, we talked about profitable growth. How do you view growth as you go into overseas markets, which is a different activity, it's a different payback period? What is the impetus? Is it top-line revenue growth, or where are you concentrating?
It's both, Phil. I think the revenue growth is first, and the profitability part will obviously come in much later. At Zee, we have always had a simple mantra of growth without profitability is not really growth. It's actually losing money, if you may. So from our perspective, any investment that on a sustained basis does not give me a 20%, 25% return on capital employed is a bad investment. So from that perspective, given any investments we make, whether domestic or international, we look at a 3 to 7 year cycle for it to break even and then pay back for us. And that is what has kept us healthy and profitable. In an industry today in India which has an average margin of about 7 to 8% for the industry, Zee operates at a healthy 25% plus, which, as you will agree, on the global basis also is at the top end of margins. So yes, we managed to do that.
I'm sure we'd all love to have 25% margins. Audiences. So I had to double check the number a couple of times when I was researching your 670 million viewers. So we talked a little bit about understanding customers. When you get to a number like 670 million viewers to understand their individual experience and what you stand for and why you're therefore relevant, how do you segment that market, and how do you work out your understanding as to what customers are looking for? So
therefore, the product diversified portfolio approach that we adopt. 34 channels in India is a function of aggregating this audience of 670 million and 29 in the global basis. So if you look at each product is focused at a clear segment, and I believe going forward through digitization and the needs of advertisers, further segmentation is going to happen. As you talked about fragmentation, my mantra to my team is that fragmentation is the order of the day. Now you either lead it or you get fragmented. So we are going to continue to develop more content, more products to further segment the audiences and continue to grow the growth and reach the billion mark that I talked about.
And has digitization helped that as well? Are you getting better information about people and their preferences through the new boxes?
Still early days because we don't have return path data yet in India. But as and when that would start, definitely we'll have far more insight into what the consumer likes and consumes. And going forward, it's only going to be better for us.
Right. So let's talk about innovation for a moment. I know that you have been widely recognized for innovating in formats and types of content. How do you innovate? Do you collaborate with third parties? Have you got a big research and development and innovation group internally? So what is it that's driving the next hit for you?
So I think the big part of it is that we have a strong internal team that works on ideation and development of formats or shows. India has traditionally been known for only importing formats. Zee was the first one that actually went out and developed local formats in India. And now we are bringing it to the world outside. In fact, if you visit our booth in the arena, you will see a dance format that we made in-house called Dance in a Dance is a runaway success. And some of my colleagues may be here. But sorry to say, we have beaten most of the international formats in India by developing our own formats. So I think a lot of credit goes to my in-house team, but also the execution partners are very important because they have to buy into our vision. Investing in formats is not cheap. It costs a lot of money upfront, and the returns only come in, maybe in 3 years, 4 years' time. So we have to constantly innovate on our content, not just on formats, but even on the drama series or fiction series, because the tastes of audiences change so fast now that one has to adapt very quickly.
Okay. So the collaboration with people outside the organization, our view, looking around the industry, is that because the whole value chain has become so difficult and so complicated, the ability to do everything in-house is now severely compromised. So in terms of the types of people that you work with as an organization and what you're looking for in a partner, how do you select who you're going to give the Zee brand to or work alongside?
I think it's largely comes from the fact that does my partner share the vision and the passion I have for my brand? And that becomes the key driving factor for us to create partnerships. Going beyond partnerships, I think the world today is moving towards more cooperation than competition. We are actually collaborating with our competition to see how we can mutually grow the markets and hence grow ourselves. So we have partnered with our key competitors in India for various projects. And therefore, I think as long as the industry grows, a company like mine will continue to grow. The key factor is that the growth must come in for the industry, and hence I'll take my fair share of it.
Okay. Let's pick up talent. So all organizations and their creativity are as good as the people who are creating. It's lovely to have a long library, but actually innovation and driving through new change comes from the people inside your organization at the moment, or the people you're partnering with or collaborating, but searching out and finding that talent which can drive your expansion is a key part of your role as CEO. What does that mean for you?
Well, Phil, it's an interesting point, and when I get asked this question, that's the only thing that gives me sleepless nights. It's not ratings, it's not revenue, it's people. It's the talent, because at the end of the day, our capital is human capital. If we don't have the right people, we can't deliver the business. India as a whole has a dearth of talent in this industry because we don't have specialized schools who train people for this business. So what we have to do, and what I do spend a lot of time on, is actually we have to recruit fresh talent every year put them through a very rigorous training program on the job as well as outside through partner institutes that we have done with. I have to create an environment where people are given freedom, people are given the right to decide what they want to do, and build a culture of entrepreneurship. And therefore, they take ownership, and therefore, you get high delivery from them.
Right.
So it's a constant battle that I have to deal with on a daily basis. And I think the industry also deals with it on a daily basis. My peers will agree with me. I have been talking to a lot of schools in India to see, can we develop programs which actually give shape to talent coming out from the institutions. But I think some more time will be taken before that starts happening.
So it sounds to me like if you're bringing the individuals into the organization and you're doing the training elements, then in order to get value for that, the flip side of that is you've also got to then keep the people. So in terms of incentivization, how do you make sure that your best people are not walking out of the door?
Well, in that situation, I'm a bit lucky compared to my peers because being a traded organization, I can easily give ESOP plans, equity stock options, which has worked for us hugely. And currently, almost 3% of the company is owned by the people. And that combined with the entrepreneurial environment that we create helps me keep attrition rate as low as they are today. So I've been quite lucky from that perspective. But it's a constant challenge. We have to continuously innovate and come up with newer ways to retain talent, put the golden handcuffs on them, as I like to call it. Yeah, so it's a constant.
And when people leave, given the interesting developments in India, do they leave to other domestic organizations, or are you finding that India is becoming a melting pot that is serving talent on a global basis now? So people are moving to organizations outside India.
In our industry, it's still mostly within India that people are moving. As I said to you, in the international market, the competition is truly only for the Indian diaspora. So there also people move within the organizations. We have not really seen too much attrition happening from companies focusing on the Indian market to the international yet. But the time will come when that will start to happen as well. Okay. And we have to prepare for that even today.
Screens. Big screens, little screens, second screens, third screens, all valuable? All valuable to the same extent?
As long as there's a consumer at the end of it, yes, very valuable.
So how do you prioritize the type of content that will go onto the main screen as compared to the other product development that you have?
It's currently still very early stages in India. It's largely the same content that's getting reformatted in terms of if you produce a show which is, let's say, 40 minutes on traditional broadcast, the same show would be a 15-minute episode on the small screens or the connected screens. There have been some investments in creating content specific to these screens, largely to grab the young viewers or the early adapters, but still early stage. As a content creator, as I like to put it, that we are a content creator, and hence we will capture audiences at the end of any screen. We were the first company in India to launch an OTT platform on a subscription model. There have been free-to-air models already existing, but we were the first to do a pay model on a platform under the brand of Ditto TV. Currently, we have over 200,000 subscribers in India, active subscribers, but still early stage. I think the biggest issue, as you touched upon, is infrastructure. We do not have good quality bandwidth in India. Today, broadband in India is classified as 512K, right? So at 512K, you can't consume video, or not good quality video at least. So it's still early stage, but I think that market will develop over the next 3 to 5 years as infrastructure investments do go in. Content will get consumed at the convenience of the consumer.
Is that different as you now move into the new market? So if I think about India and I also think about the Middle East, actually they are becoming purposed first for mobile. There's no legacy infrastructure of a wired environment or perhaps even hugely developed telco or indeed banking systems that go behind them. So when you enter a market like the Middle East, are you building in a different way?
I think we are going simultaneously to all the screens in these markets. But the traditional format still remains the biggest piece from a revenue perspective and a profit perspective. Consumption does happen on connected screens, but it's still very small, even in these new markets that we've entered. In markets like the United States or England, for example, it's the Indian diaspora that are moving from the traditional broadcast mediums, whether through cable or satellite, to the new medium, where our content is already available to them. So yes, those markets are seeing a shift happening, but in our core markets of domestic and the new markets of international, it's still largely traditional broadcast for the time being.
So if I think about the strategic agenda now, and you look across the industry, tips, what are you seeing as a chief executive of a successful growth, particularly with an international growth organization? What should we be taking from the lessons learned?
I think the biggest thing that one has to be, as a chief executive of a company, has to look at that change is happening much faster than we can see it. And if you miss that cycle, for you to return back will be a long journey and a very painful journey. So my tips to anybody is that in such a fast-paced changing environment, keep your eyes and ears open, keep your feet on the ground, and make sure you focus on delivery rather than, some kite flying.
That's great. Somebody reminded me yesterday that just because you're on the right path doesn't mean if you sit still you won't get run over. So there's something about having a strategic direction, but actually the pace and the agility in order to execute against that. So if we translate that into looking across the television industry as a whole, what's the most exciting thing about working in this industry for you at this moment?
I think the most exciting thing for me is how the consumer is getting segmented, and to find those trends and create content to deliver for those consumers is the most exciting part today. And I think that journey is just started. I think it will take at least 3 to 5 years before one can say that India has become a stable market or a mature market. Today, the third largest TV market in the world, fastest growing TV market in the world. We add close to about 10, 11 million new television homes. I don't think any country can talk about such numbers. So it's interesting how the consumer segmentation is going to happen in this country. And I don't think any of us even have seen what it's going to mean for content in the future. Today, India has over 600 channels. I don't see any reason why there cannot be content created for 6,000 different genres. As long as you can find a consumer for it, it'll make sense. Niche content is going to be the order of the day going forward, because the consumer wants more variety, and companies have to deliver that.
And I talk about knowing what you stand for and being relevant. So why do consumers choose to spend their time with you and your content rather than somebody else's? The corporate mantra of Zee?
So we just finished the exercise about less than a year back, where we've changed the entire corporate brand philosophy of Zee. We now dedicate ourselves to a saying from Indian called Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, which means the world is my family. I am willing to offer and adapt everybody's cultures, lives, race, and treat them as part of me. And that's the philosophy we are going with when we go to new markets, when we go to new genres of content, and that's what we want to deliver to the world.
Right. So with that, I know that I'll be going down to the stand to see some dancing formats. I guess just to close off, Punit, if I imagine it's your birthday or we've got a celebration and I could grant you anything that you liked to help you go forward and to make a success for yourself and for the organization, what can I give you?
Can you add a few hours to every day? Can you make my day from 24 to 48?
So the joys of being a chief executive drive.
I love this job and I wish I could do it more. That's Fabulous. What I would love.
Great stuff. Everyone, Punit Goenka.
Thank you very much, Phil.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Great stuff.
Thank you.